Welcome back to the Move Podcast, brought to you each and every time by OURA Ring. Here's the thing. OURA helps you know why you feel, how you feel. Break that down for me, George. Packs advanced heart rate variability, temperature, activity, and sleep monitoring sensors into a convenient, non-invasive ring. It's just been a game changer for me. The other cool thing is the body temperature sensors allow it to detect changes happening inside your body sometimes before you even know it. We saw this during COVID. People were noticing, religious users of the ring were seeing their core temp rise, knew something was up, and bam, ultimately being diagnosed with COVID. So it's really was a game changer for them through an unfortunate time. But next level. Head on over to OURA Ring, OURA ring.com. Check it out. There's a flow code.
And I'm ready for you today. I got the good bulge. Give me a little camera angle here. I'm ready to go today. 77.
His readiness is good. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We're talking about stage 17 in the Pyrenees. QLN.
Stage 17, Muret, to Saint-Lary-Soulan, Col du Portet.
Repeat that.
I mean, the best part about it was the birds there at the beginning. They must have been very excited about this stage. Did you hear them just yakking?
Oh, yeah.
Just yakking, man. Hey, today's show brought to you by Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive daily nutritional beverage that we've ever tried. Packs so much into one simple packet. For somebody like me, and probably like George, probably like all of us, just don't eat enough vegetables. I'm ashamed of that. This is a game changer, right? This is packs 75 absorbable vitamins, minerals, probiotics, superfoods, all in one product. The thing I love the most about it is the first generation of this formulation wasn't enough for them. They have actually reformulated the product 52 times, like constantly looking for new ingredients, better ingredients, and not just sitting there. NSF certified for sports, so all you athletes out there know that it's safe. No junk in there. Right now, for our listeners, a unique offer. You get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D, which I'm also deficient in, and 5 free travel packs. Head on over to athleticgreens.com/themove and a free supply of vitamin D for a year. I'm going to get on that because I want to see what's happening with my D. It's low, and I don't understand why when I'm in the sun all the time.
You're not absorbing it.
Right. I think maybe the whole package makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Anyways, did you also you're lucky I turned around yesterday. I had a Zoom call I had to get back for, and I was with George and Enzo and another buddy of ours, Todd, and but you're lucky I had to head back.
I know. You were putting the hurting on us yesterday on, what's the name of that climb, Hummingbird?
Well, we went up Hummingbird and then up Overlook and headed towards Four Corners.
Yeah, I think this new product by our friends over at the Feed and Swiss RX.
Nitric oxide, not to be confused with the nitrous oxide that I used to put in my white IROC Z when I was a kid.
I love it. This stuff is really a game changer. We've been trying it every day before the rides, and I'm really noticing a difference.
I know. And today I do not have a Zoom call, so we get to ride longer. And we're going out with the legend Mike Closure. Let's don't tell him. Let's don't give him any of our nitric oxide.
Definitely. I love hitting that stuff right before we go out for a ride. And for our listeners today that want to go faster, head over to swissrx.com/themove and get 50% off your first order. And check out the flow code.
There's the flow code. That's right. Those guys, the guys at the Feed, they're I say it all the time. I mean, why didn't we think? And I mean it. Like, why didn't we think of that?
I love every time a Feed box shows up. I want to just rummage through all the goodies. It's all great stuff. I really enjoy getting that stuff.
Yeah. Well, today was, there's a lot to talk about today. Yesterday was a bit of a snooze fest. Stage 17, Tadej Pogačar is, what a boss. I mean, the guy is totally in control. Clearly the strongest guy in the race. He doesn't even, it's almost like I noticed today, it was like, is that a smirk? Is he just like sitting there kind of
going, test me?
Yeah, he's giggling, going, look at these fools.
Yeah.
What do they think they're doing?
No question. The guy is on the form of his life. We saw an interview from Alan Piper this morning that he's saying he's perhaps even better than last year. let's go back to the beginning. I mean, today's Bastille Day for all you Frenchies. Happy Bastille Day. I remember quite vividly waking up or looking at July 14th and on the race Bible going, how hard is this day going to be? Because the Tour de France stages are always hard. But when it's Bastille Day, you tack on a little bit more because all the French guys are going to be going crazy to make the breakaway. We saw today 4 French guys in the breakaway.
Yeah, I mean, back in our day, you had like Jackie Durand would AKA Doudou, they used to call him, but he would tape his handlebars, the red, white, and blue, the blue, blanc, rouge,
yeah,
and I'm in the red, white, and blue bandana, and I'm just like, oh God.
Bigger crowds on that day too.
Normally, but I was surprised that the final climb was minimal. I don't know if it's just that remote or maybe the weather. It was definitely cool and cloudy, almost foggy at the top. But I was a little surprised.
Yeah, it looked quite cool actually. We saw the riders. We can see their breaths near the top of the climb. People on the side of the roads were all with sweatshirts and hoodies on. So perhaps that's why there was less people. But what a crazy hard day! What an amazing ride by Perez. I mean, think about his effort today, riding away from everybody and just putting it all out there and getting caught just before the finish. Well, several K before the finish, but still, incredible ride by him, and his team should be proud.
And they just last night signed a new contract extension with Team Cofidis. So that was, a lot of times guys sign contract extensions and they go, "Hello, Gruppetto."
He's just signed the contract?
The next day.
Yeah, they're just like, new deal, more money. I'll just sit my ass back here and chill.
And then, of course...
Whereas the other way, if you don't have a contract, which we're going to get into some scoops that I got today about somebody very prominent in the race that does not have a contract, oftentimes that's when you see these guys being aggressive, saying, I got to get out here and get a new deal, or either renew my deal or find a new team. But hats off to him, new deal last night, 2-year contract extension. Boom, just made the race. By the way, I've just been playing around more and more with these odds makers and just looking. I'm just we're trying to get an understanding of this. Anthony Perez was 400 to 1 to win today. Those are some long odds.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, well,
if you win,
if you do it,
if you can pick those.
Yeah, but be careful with that stuff. You never know how that flips. To me, the biggest story of the day was, though, outside of Pogacar's just sheer dominance and effortless pedaling, was Carapaz. I don't understand. No, I do understand, but he had Pogacar and Vingegaard completely fooled. He's sitting there with the mask on, sitting on the back, and they're rotating at the front. It's just the 3 of them left. I just assumed he was about to get dropped. Next thing you know, he sends it.
He definitely had us fooled, but apparently in the post-race interview, both Vingegaard and Pogacar said that they knew he was bluffing. They were ready for a new attack.
When we saw those two talking, that was Vingegaard tipping off Pogacar that, hey, Carapaz is back here bluffing.
Yeah.
Because they were
aware.
But he had us fooled, and you know what? I was initially watching the race. I'm thinking he was the guy that had the most to gain by Uran getting dropped there. If he wants to make that podium, he needed to put time on him. But you got to hand it to him. He had a tactic in his head.
Do you hear the guy with the leaf blower out there? That's pretty annoying.
I do hear that. But
it's faint, but we'll trudge on through.
Yeah, going back to Carapaz.
Were they listening in? I mean, how did they just get a sense of that, or did they, back in, as we've talked about before in our day, we would sort of listen in on each other. Other teams.
You're going there? I thought we were going to go there this year.
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
Too late now. I already said it, but I wonder if that was their intel or if they just predicted that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we were watching quite closely, and there's no way we could tell that he was bluffing. Although, as we got further up the climb and we saw that he wasn't riding, I actually mentioned that he better be planning something, because I'd be quite disappointed if he wasn't. He was going after every attack. So that means he had the legs to go after Pogacar and was just refusing to pull. So I think he either A, wanted to go for the stage win or just go all out in the last 12, 1,300 meters, which is what he ended up doing. And yep, he ended up getting caught, but he extended his time to Uran by another 30 seconds, finished a minute and a half roughly ahead of Uran, which is a big deal for the podium fight.
Huge deal. That's going to, if it stays the way it is, that'll be the race in the time trial. That'd be fun to watch. But the Vingegaard, he stayed calm, he stayed cool, he stayed in his tempo. kept them right there. I mean, I think the most they got, and, it's always deceiving when they're doing, the front camera angle. You never know how close or how far he is. I think the most they got was 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
Stayed in his zone and brought him back.
But when Carapaz made that attack after sitting on the back, you were throwing out all kinds of names for him. You did not like that in a sports sense. Can you elaborate on that?
I get that the cycling is a tactical sport. It is a sport at which times you have to play possum. But I think I know or have learned too much about the guy. And I'm not trying to throw any personal shade here, but we know that from Johan, we know the dynamic. What happened when he left Movistar? He told he had already signed with Ineos. And he verbally said to Team Movistar that I'm going to stay with you guys. There's a
history there.
It starts to add up, and I'm like, you can't trust this guy as far as you can throw him.
Well, that could have been his tactic, but I would assume that it was the director back there telling him, hey, right now we got nothing to lose. We want to try to get a stage win and or put time on Uran. So I think that was just part of their plan at the end of the day. They weren't able to make a difference on the climb, although it seemed like they might have with Port and Geraint Thomas. But, I mean, let's be real. They weren't able to match anything compared to what UAE was doing, the pace they were doing at the bottom of the climb.
Speaking of people throwing stuff out during the stage, did you see the American Colombian here when Uran got dropped? I mean, he started crying. He was like bent over and just like.
I'm a big fan of Uran, and just to see him, he's been riding a perfect race so far. And he had a bad day. I'm hoping tomorrow he can recover. I'm still not counting him out for the podium. He's a great time trialist, won the time trial in Tour of Switzerland. But they're gonna have to try to race away from him tomorrow.
They probably need to get some more time. And if it stays where it is, that will be the race on Saturday during the time trial, which, I mean, frankly, is a lot more exciting. I mean, Pogačar, from what we see up till now, this is over. I mean, Tour's finished and it's going to be a fight for the podium. So that will be the most exciting thing.
Yeah, and I mean, at this stage of the Tour de France too, we all know the final time trial of the Tour de France is completely different than the first one. Carapaz seems to be on his way up, and Ron is having a hard day today, or having a hard time today. I hope that doesn't indicate that his form is on the way down.
What I'm hearing is you guys don't want Carapaz on the podium.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just a big fan of Uran, and would
Can
love
you
to see
make
him.
this up in the time trial?
Is this could be a little? I don't know
A new
how
bromance?
No, the neighborhood down there. There could be some tension between Colombia and Ecuador. This may be what he is channeling. I don't know. But it was. Man, it was. Then the other interesting thing, because George, you won. It's often confused, right? You have Col de Porte, which is where they finished today, as Alain told us, and then you have Pladide, which is if you went on Google Earth or even the race book, you can see the difference, right? So most of the climb is the same. Somewhere near the top, there is a hard left turn, and that goes to Pladide, which is where you won in 2005, which is a whole nother issue. I'm not sure why you still have credit for that. All my shit has been deleted. And George, I looked on Wikipedia, and lo and behold, 2005, the winner is George Hincapie, and it says to the right, yellow jersey, Lance Armstrong, and there's a line through it. I'm like, wait a minute. We were eating out of the same cereal box here. What happened here?
Remember when I'm always advocating for friends in the peloton? Perhaps I got friends everywhere.
You've got friends at Wikipedia. But so there's a left turn to Pladide, and then they continue on to the finish today, which is kind of cool. It's the highest pass in the Pyrenees. But
and a couple of American riders looking good today, McNulty and Sepp Kuss.
Yeah, I thought it was a great day for American cycling. Seeing both of those guys amongst the best 10 climbers in the world this far into the Tour de France. Huge day. I'd love to see these guys on the same team at one point in their careers.
Well, that was what I said yesterday. So there's a whole nother podcast. I can tell you how to build the ultimate American team. But I talked about it in the Alps, right? When we see Kwiatkowski pulling and then pull over and literally stop. I mean, not totally stop, but go as slow as he can possibly go just to get to the finish line. Brendan McNulty pulling his brains out. When he was done, he did the same thing. I was like, yes, that's what a true teammate does.
Restock for tomorrow.
His work is done. There is no reason. Yeah. Again, I said with Kwiatkowski in the Alps, like you could just stop if you wanted. If you want to stop and stretch, nobody says that you have to keep going. Just shows that he's got a true his DNA is truly professional.
Do you think historically a lot of domestiques they'd be like, well, man, I'm going to be in the top 50. They just want to keep going and get a better time up. Or now I hear what you're saying.
They do that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Just stop. Get recovered. You got to live to fight another day.
Yeah, it makes no difference. But it makes a big difference for your effort the next day, right? The recovery, and just go easy.
Yeah. By the way, at the start of this race, Vingegaard, Van Aert, and Sepp Kuss were Roglic's domestique. So imagine if he was still there, what could have potentially been happening on these finals, uphill finals.
Yeah, he is the big surprise. From slinging fish to getting Strava KOMs to now most likely going to end up second in the Tour.
Yeah.
We'll see if that'll be interesting. See if he can repeat the TT performance like he had in the first one. Because if he can't, then, because he's going to be good there.
Yeah.
That fight for second to fourth is not finished. We got a lot. I think the guy riding around in yellow that's over. But between second and fourth, there could be some shakeup. Today's show also brought to you by Roka, a performance sunglass maker down there in Austin, Texas. Rob and his whole team have completely reinvented this category. The fit of the shades, the lens quality, the weight of them as well, no slip. And then taking it a step further with the prescription glasses. I know I'm a religious user of my readers. JB's got his prescription shades. They've just changed the game. I've worn a lot of shades in my day. This is the best. Head on over to Roka. That's ROKA.com. 20% off for our listeners. That's Roka.com. Last one of the day brought to you by Amp Human and Momentous. Now this, I'm giving it the boomstick. This merger, we haven't busted out the boomstick in a few days. This merger is boomstick material, right? We've been loyal and religious users of the PR lotion from Amp Human forever, proven to work, proven to buffer lactic acid, used not just in this Tour de France, but in all the big sports league, all the big championships. It absolutely works. By the way, Kipchoge, when he ran 159, used it over his entire body. Okay, so that sort of speaks for itself. Then we have the blend of Amp Human and Momentous, another product that we've just been consumers of for a long time. Love this partnership. Bright future for both, and best of luck to both. Exclusive offer for the Move audience. You get, we're calling it the Move Kit, right? The ultimate performance and recovery package. You get Momentous Recovery Mix and PR Lotion, plus a free massage ball, $30 off. Head on over to amphuman.com/themove. There's our flow code. That's amphuman.com/themove. Boomstick. Well, so the scoops that I got is, we see, well, I think everybody, although Carapaz was up there today, you have to agree that Ineos this is a disaster of a tour.
They could save it by getting, if they get the podium,
but for that team, I mean,
they're there to win.
But to sitting here to even utter the words, well, they could save it by maybe getting on the podium. That's Geraint Thomas. I heard today is this is the final year of his contract. He had planned to abandon the tour and go prepare for the Olympics, and the team said, "Yeah, not so fast." So,
well, I mean, that's
a tough position.
He gets paid by the team, so they're not really too concerned about the Olympics, and they want to see him finish the Tour de France.
Yeah.
So if his contract's ending, do you keep Geraint Thomas? Will they re-up him, or is he looking? There's a lot of talent on Ineos.
I think then you have these. It becomes an issue of personality because if that is it must be a disagreement with Dave Brailsford. Then that it's hard to sort of forget about those things. So. I suspect we see him in a different kit next year.
Yeah, and then what do you do next year with Vingegaard and Roglic? If Roglic comes back at 100% for the Tour de France, Vingegaard being a young rider jersey, we haven't seen this in forever or a long time. We're first and second, and one of the strongest guys right now in the third week of the Tour, David Gaudu, are all young riders in the classifications of the Tour de France.
You got it.
Super interesting.
Jumbo has to keep both of them. I mean, Roglic doesn't have that many years. Vingegaard's seemingly has
a rising star.
Yeah, 7 to 10 years. You got to figure out a way to keep both.
Yeah.
And then who knows? And
I think they'll keep them both, but who's going to work for who next year?
A co-leader
that'll be
scenario.
Well, and who knows what happens with Tom Dumoulin if he decides to come back at the highest level for Grand Tours, right? I mean, that's, there was a day and time when we thought he was the next Miguel Indurain. Could climb good enough, could time trial his ass off. Anyways, that's not our problem. Our only problem is to sit here and talk about it. So we'll just wait and see what happens.
Well, and you throw in Sepp Kuss, who keeps improving as well.
No, he's part of my plan to reinvigorate American cycling. I haven't had any calls. It's so fucked up. I told the world I can tell you exactly how to do that. I don't know. Where's my phone? Nobody's called yet. It's just no missed calls. That's all right. You guys stay at the back. Let me know how that rolls for y'all.
As we were texting this morning, and Johan was sharing a story and a picture of the mountain there, it was very cryptic. It was very inside. What was that?
Yeah, it was. I didn't. In fact, I don't think I was at that training camp, but apparently Lance and Johan were there. Probably some of our other climbers. They ran into Jan Ulrich and Vinokurov and maybe Cloden doing the recon. So their whole plan was to do the climb and then see them on the way down. They'd be climbing up. And then wait for them, and then have Lance do it again just to mess with their heads. That was a total Johan Lance strategy. Yeah. But apparently they sat in that corner for 30 minutes, and those guys never ended up doing the recon the last climb because they're going to miss their flights home, which is kind of crazy. The fact that they're all the way there and skip the last most important climb of the day just to make their flight home.
Yeah, and I didn't. Johan was very proud of that memory of his. I actually did not remember that. And for the record, I wasn't going to miss my flight.
Of course, because you probably had the jizzy waiting for you.
Yeah, boy. Had the jizzy waiting.
All right, tomorrow, short with a lot of fireworks and two non-categorized climbs.
These short mountain days, they're always dangerous. I think it's helped a little bit by a fairly flat run-in, but and I mean we're not talking about just some mountains. I mean we're talking about Tourmalet, which is a monster, dude. Yeah. It is so when you're on it, even in the race, going race pace, it takes forever.
Yeah,
it just drags and drags. It's a bear.
It's going to be full gas from the start. Look at the little. Put that slide back. There's a bunch of little rollers there that, trust me, are going to crush the legs. 2 Category 4 climbs. Well, one is categorized, but the other one looks like about the same. That's going to be a super tough start. It actually reminds me a lot of 2011 last mountain stage where we had to race over the Telegraph, Galibier down into Alpe d'Huez. Cadell Evans' bike broke up the Telegraph. We had him wait for us, and we put all the team at the front, did all we could in the valley, and he ended up in a perfect position to win the Tour de France and the time trial. The next stage is a very similar stage to that, so we're going to see a ton of fireworks tomorrow. Should be an awesome last mountain stage of the Tour de France.
Yeah, and of course Les Ardennes, the stage where I clipped the little kid's bag on the side of the road. A lot of people seen that.
And
clip.
The pedal slip.
Well, the slip, so the backstory on that is and I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that I hit the deck and wanted to get up as fast as I could and sort of catch back up and then see if I needed more time on Jan. I knew that the time that I had wasn't enough going into the final time trial, but the chainstay of the bike was actually cracked. So that bike was broken from the first crash running into the kid. So there's just the whole, anyways, I mean, we didn't even know it. And I was so into the race, I didn't feel it. But when the mechanic at the end of the day picked up the bike to put it on the roof rack, of course the chainstay was right at eye level. And he says, holy shit, this thing's cracked.
Wow.
But yeah, it was good. If I would have known that, man.
So what we're seeing tomorrow, the last climb isn't quite as hard or as long as today's last climb. But of course, you have the Tourmalet, the monster before that.
Yeah, it takes it out.
So I think we're going to have to see a lot of racing, a lot of attacking on the Tourmalet for the guys that are racing for the podium.
But and you have what today did to everybody.
Yeah.
This is the day like this. Let me see if I can pull up the verts for today. But it was massive today.
Yeah.
Who knows? We haven't checked the weather for tomorrow. I don't know what's up with that, but it's going to be, and then the final day. And then we get back to the Mark Cavendish. So now, for me, from now to the end of the tour, there's really just 2 stories. There's who takes those final 2 spots on the podium, and does Mark Cavendish break Eddie Merckx's record?
And let's not forget about your favorite jersey. The mountain jersey is still being
Love it, man. I'm
fought upon.
So into that, bruh.
Real aggressively. And actually, believe it or not, Pogačar is creeping his way back into the
thank God.
mountain jersey overall. He's only just over 10 points behind. And with tomorrow's Tourmalet, who knows? He might be taking that jersey tomorrow as well.
So I just pulled it up. Speaking of, and Ben O'Connor's hanging tough. I always look at, he posts everything almost immediately on Strava, which I think is just awesome. Close to 14,000 vert today.
Oh.
You take that, 14,000 a day, and then tomorrow, hello, Tourmalet right in your face. I mean, those are 2 nasty days. I got so mad with these downhill finishes, but now, boom, boom. And then we get on to these 2 big stories. Hey, also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but for shameless plug, I got a new forward that's up with a guy named Michael Moeller, who's maybe not on top of everybody's mind, but he's one of the most famous photographers in the world. But it goes way beyond that. He's a very interesting guy and a complicated guy, like somebody else I know. But fascinating conversation. He's got a new film out that just a 3D film filmed all over the world, underwater with all the wildlife. It's just incredible. It's called Into the Now. So check out the new episode of The Forward.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
Thank you. He jumped right in. I'll give him credit, man. I was like, this guy seems crazy. I'm going to wait to the end and just figure out how crazy. He started right away. I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going crazy right now. Like, he went right away.
And are you able to say what you committed to with him on that show, or are you waiting?
No, you got to listen. There he is.
Listen to it, okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I thought that was kind of crazy.
Wait, we've done 107 of those. That's cool. Yeah, you'll have to listen because I've committed we asked me to do a bunch of crazy things, most of which I said no, but one of them most of the world would say hell no to, but I said I'm in.
And there is a portion, I won't give away too much, but he offers to light you on fire.
That was one of the things I turned down. Yes, right. I was like, we should do a photo where they light you on fire. And I was like, well, there's a lot of people that would actually like that photo. That might be your best seller.
Great.
And I said, but I think I'm out on that, you know?
And the Outside Plus Strava segment in Brevard is winding down or heating up.
Yep. Well,
whichever way you look at it.
It is winding down because we have until Saturday. Ben Wright's still on top. Jill Patterson's still on top. Those are the men's and women's opens. The men's U23, that's what's been heating up, right? So you got Tyler Miranda, Cooper Johnson, and Jaden Grimes. And by the way, they're all like in the top 6 or 7 on the overall. Heck of good rides for them. Now the thing I don't get is Skylar Bovine. She's leading the women's U23. We have not had any U23 women go out and do this. I'm just going to say it again. It's $5,000 to win. We're not bluffing. This isn't monopoly money. We're going to send you the money. $3,000 for second and $1,000 for third. So
go get it.
Yeah, come on, ladies.
Yeah, I reached out to a bunch of my local contacts, try to get all the U23 women they can to go out and do the segment.
Yeah,
real money on the line.
And thanks to Outside Plus for supporting that. Big news, and I think we'll elaborate on it tomorrow, but big news in their world, just acquiring Pink Bike and Cycling Tips and a bunch of other. These aren't just ad reads. I mean it when I say it. Like, they're reinventing this space.
Yep.
Yeah, Rob and his whole team. So, all right.
A few questions and comments.
Yeah, let's do it.
Are bikes tweaked stage to stage based on the demands of the day? Gearing, fit, tires, wheels, gear, etc. Are all team bikes set up similar or based on rider preference and goals?
I think yes to all of that, except for the fit. The fit stays the same. Of course, not for the time trials. That bike is a completely different fit. But yes, gearing, wheel selection, and we're seeing even now, guys, as we saw today with Team UAE, some of the guys switching to caliper brakes, lighter, so.
Yeah, every team's different. Obviously, when I was on UHC with Cavendish, we'd have a choice of different wheel brands every day. We didn't have one commitment, which was super unique. Most teams have one partner, and they have the different sizes of wheels that they go with. UHC would have different selections throughout the Tour de France. On BMC, for instance, we get a text every evening right before dinner from our mechanics. What gearing do you want, and which wheel set do you want? So I would assume that's the way most of the teams go.
Yeah, that was from Ben. Thanks, Ben. Here's one from Diogo in Portugal.
Oh, wow.
Big fan of all your...
Wait.
Diogo? D-I-O-G-O?
I think that's Diogo.
Diogo? Big fan of all three shows. Lance has been an idol since my childhood. And since I became a cycling fan, watching his success in the Tour. Well, this is interesting. When listening to the podcast, it is clear that both Lance and Johan are extremely competitive people.
Well, newsflash.
Which is a natural requirement for people to reach the top of their sport. Jordan, Brady, you know where I'm going with that. So my question, and I'll ask Johan this on the show later today, but between the two, Johan and LA, which is the most competitive? Ooh. And who is the most competitive athlete that you personally know?
Wow.
Great question.
It may not be fair for either he or I to answer. It's probably those questions structured like that. I think it's better for somebody just one step removed or somebody that was right there in the fire with, like George Hincapie, to answer the question. But I'll go ahead and just guess. I mean, I think it's too close to call, you know. He's highly, highly competitive, as am I.
What's your take on it, George, between those two?
I would agree. It's, close to call. I would say Lance might edge him out there at the end of the day. But
bike throw?
Yeah, definitely a bike throw.
Okay.
And the most competitive athlete ever?
Yeah.
God. Huh. You know, I as you know, by the way, the Open Championship's starting tomorrow, so this is my Wimbledon moment. I'm going to kind of half watch the Tour and totally watch the US or the Open Championship. But I got to know Tiger Woods over the years. He is freakily competitive. Like we probably have the same view on winning and losing, which is maybe not the healthiest view, but insanely competitive. Now he's not the best athlete I've ever met. Best athlete. People ask me all the time, who's the best athlete of all time, and there's nobody even close. Michael Phelps is the best athlete of all time. To do what he did for as long as he did, the amount of gold medal, no doubt.
Wow. And here's a fun one, and we'll wrap up for today. Absolutely love the pods and the TDF insight. My wife, Diane, wanted to ask a question on these epic climbs in the Alps or Pyrenees. How often were you flashed by enthusiastic female fans? If so, did you ever have your cadence distracted? That's from Brian in Corona, California.
Yeah, it sounds like Brian had a few too many Coronas when they mocked that up. It happens.
It seems like you seemed more nude man.
I was going to say, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, the problem, and we should just have like a PSA about this. Like, let's get rid of the naked dudes running beside the Peloton or the Borat suits or all the shit they wear.
Speedos.
And let's have, Diane, come on, get your friends out there. But it does happen from time to time. But no distraction. And the worst is when you miss it. Like the guys, did you see that? You're like, what? That girl just flashed us. And you're like, I missed it.
Hey, one last thing.
We should get Chippo on. Imagine him and Cipollini answering that question. That was probably like every kilometer.
It probably still happens to him today.
Right.
Well, he was going a lot slower up the climbs than you were.
That's true.
Hey, this is very important for our listeners who do ride, which I assume is most, if not all of you. Yep. We got an important guest coming up. We want you to stick around.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll learn something
Rob
that might
Wolf,
help you.
Yeah, it was actually fascinating. Rob Wolf, co-founder of LMNT, which we talk about all the time on this show, our hydration go-to source. He really breaks down kind of the science behind hydration and also how they've that product has sort of found itself into these other parts, not just performance, but also for health and wellness and people that are affected with other issues and diseases that it's been really helpful on. And he was super interesting. So check that out. That's coming right up. Thanks for tuning in. Now we're joined by the co-founder of LMNT, Rob Wolf. And as you loyal listeners know, I'm just a huge fan of this product. And most of y'all know the backstory. When I go out and ride, or do anything, actually run, hike, I just sweat, man. I sweat a ton, and I've been looking for literally for 30 years to find the ultimate, hydration product that helps me replenish just being a sweaty mofo. And I stumbled across LMNT years ago, and I've just been such a big fan. Rob, thanks for being here, man.
Huge honor. I'm proud to bring down property values anywhere I go. So stoked to be here.
We try to do that ourselves on a daily basis, but give me I've never heard the stories, certainly from you or really from anybody, but LMNT is just different. It is saltier, which I'm actually a big proponent of. But how did you just sort of sit around and scratch your head and come up with this formulation?
So I've eaten a fairly low carb diet for about 23 years, but the sports that I do, I co-founded the first and fourth CrossFit affiliate gyms in the world. So I've been involved with that scene for a long time. And then I do old guy Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have a brown belt now and I'm kind of motoring along with that. And both of those are very glycolytic sports. And it's kind of a bastard to fuel a glycolytic activity on a low carb diet. But just for a variety of health issues, that's the way that I've done best. And it's interesting. I played with carb cycling and all kinds of different stuff, and it never really worked that well. But I met two guys who are other co-founders of LMNT, Tyler Cartwright and Luis Villasenor, and I had them look at what I was doing. And they're like, "You're good on protein, carbs, fat, but you really need a lot more electrolytes, specifically sodium." And like anybody does when you're talking to a world expert in something, I ignored their advice for at least a year. Of course, you don't listen to these guys that train tens of thousands of people and have all kinds of success with it. And so about a year of still flailing around and struggling with my kind of energy levels while training, they're like, "No, man, really weigh and measure all your food, put it all into chronometer, and then we can see the protein, carbs, fat, but we'll all see your sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium." And lo and behold, I was like between 25 to 50% under what they were recommending as a minimum baseline, which was 5 grams of sodium per day. So I bumped that up, felt better immediately. And what we decided to do at that point was provide a mix it at home option for this stuff, which we called Keto Aid. And it was this much sodium, this much potassium, this much magnesium, lemon juice, stevia, sweeten it. And we provided the downloadable PDF for that. And within about 6 months, we had 500,000 downloads and people were just going crazy on this thing. They're like, "This helps so much. But when I'm going through TSA, they don't like my 3 bags of white powder. Could you guys come up with some sort of an alternative to this?" And so, this thing, I guess, was like a freemium product first, where we provided this make it at home recipe, and we still have that available and it's still super popular. But we didn't really launch into this with the idea of becoming like salt moguls or anything like that. It was really just recognizing what my individual problems were with proper hydration and electrolyte status, recognizing that was a problem that faced a huge number of the folks in our community. And then we started noticing that literally everybody seems to be in this situation where if they kind of clean up their diet and they're not eating a massive amount of processed foods, they're typically not getting enough sodium. And that's at a baseline. And then when you stick in intense athletic activity or working in hot or humid environments, it just compounds the problem. So that's kind of the not too long rambling story of how this thing came to be.
No, that's good. Good background. By the way, the 3 bags of white protein, forget the TSA. Imagine going 30 over in the middle of the night, when you're driving on a cross-country trip with your family. Imagine, that doesn't go over too good either. But what I'm always struck by is people, and I want everybody to hear this loud and clear. There's this, I think most people have this perception that if they just drink a ton of water all day long, they're going to go to the bathroom, it's going to be clear. They look at that and they say, "Oh, I'm hydrated." That's not right. I mean, it's one thing to pee clear. It's another thing to be truly hydrated at the cellular level. And so I'm always telling, I see people show up at my house, they've got like gallon jugs of water, and I drink 2 of these a day. I said, "Well, what's in it?" I said, "This is just water." I said, "Well, that's not bad, but there's certainly a better way to go about this. You just have to have some level of salt and potentially some sugar to help the absorption, right?"
Yeah. And, if we look in a textbook of medical physiology, hydration is defined as water and electrolytes. And somewhere along the line, the electrolyte piece just kind of got dropped out of the equation. And it's interesting. There was the powers that be within the medical community are just now starting to walk back like the 8 ounce glasses of water per day, because we're finding that people are ending up in this hyponatremic state. They're in a low sodium state that's actually dangerous. Like people go from seated to standing and they'll pass out. People who are exercising at high intensity, it sounds insane, but you could almost make the argument that they would be better off drinking little water if they don't have access to electrolytes, because at a minimum, even when you're sweating, you're losing primarily sodium. But if you dump a bunch of water on top of that, then you're really disrupting that sodium potassium balance, which every muscle contraction, every bit of ATP production, everything is tied into our sodium potassium levels. So people notice that they get edema, their hands will swell, their feet will swell, they'll get headaches, which is from brain swelling. And at the end stage of this, people get hospitalized or occasionally even die. So like, it sounds crazy to suggest that people should be more careful consuming just water, but we're actually finding that that's the case. And then short of that, what's smart is to add in some significant sodium, and that can be pickle juice, that could be pickles, that could be olives. Like 10 olives provide a gram of sodium. So even though, you know, we love when people buy LMNT, we really try to educate folks. Like if you're doing a mid-afternoon snack, do like some salami and cheese, because it's going to be a lot of sodium, and then sip on some water so that those two things kind of equilibrate. And this sounds a lot like the old 1950s, 1960s football coach of like, have a salt tablet, sip on some water to you know, thirst. And that was a time when people didn't end up hospitalized from this hyponatremic situation. So it is interesting. People have been very diligent in trying to hydrate, but the way that they go about doing it is oftentimes counterproductive.
When I say it, I get a lot of messages from folks that ask me to send sort of good luck messages to people they know that are doing triathlons or Ironmans, or whether it's a half or a full. And I always end the message by saying, just keep in mind, you know, triathlon is not a 3-sport sport. It's a 4-sport sport. And the fourth sport there is hydration, nutrition, just trying to nail that. And you see it so much in these long endurance events where people, exactly what you just touched on, and all of these symptoms, and many of them are just visible. You can see somebody, you're like, uh-oh. I struggled with that when I was doing tries. And I think, you know, it's a key message, like and it's individualized too, like trying to get that balance right for the individual. And then, you know, obviously the dosages and the timing and all of that stuff. But if you miss that, you're going to be laid up on the side of the road.
Yeah, and it happens quick. Like if somebody gets hospitalized or they end up in an emergency room, the two things that an ER doctor looks at first is pH and electrolytes, because those are two things that arguably are the most tightly regulated in our physiology. And if they go a little bit one way or the other, the person can end up hospitalized or dead from pH or electrolyte imbalance.
God. Wow.
Rob, George and Gabby here. Appreciate you guys sending me a bunch of stuff as well. Totally hooked on the product. Took me a minute to get used to it, but now I can't go without it. What would you recommend for our listeners, the guys the ladies and guys and girls that are doing, you know, 4 to 6 hour rides? How would you recommend them drinking your product throughout those types of efforts?
You know, it's interesting. I think going on the a little bit more dilute side, my wife likes to drink LMNT in 16 ounces of water. And for people that are at high motor output, I think they could end up with some GI problems. So I would go at least 24 to 32 ounces of water. And then this is very anecdotal, but the feedback that we've had is that when people have LMNT at that level of dilution and they're drinking it, if it tastes sweet, then they're pretty good to continue drinking. And then usually when they hit a point where they're, I guess, adequately hydrated, then they start tasting the salt. So if it tastes salty, then you're probably okay. And if it still tastes sweet, then you can probably continue to hydrate. And you've got those standard kind of rules of thumb of, you know, about a half a liter per 45 minutes of physical activity, you know, is kind of a benchmark, but it fits well within the standard hydration guidelines. But you can also use that sense of taste as a way to really customize it for you.
That's crazy. I mean, the fact the body knows that, you know, just the physiology. Mm-hmm. Wow. I bet you didn't.
And there are no randomized controlled trials on that, like the evidence-based medicine folks will freak out. But I think that we've seen just thousands and thousands of people report this same thing. So it seems fairly reasonable that that's a solid benchmark.
And I would imagine it varies greatly with humid conditions like where I'm at in South Carolina and super dry conditions like here in Aspen.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah. Just the American Council of Sports Medicine for folks at hot, humid environments or at altitude and dry environments, they start the conversation at 7 to 10 grams of sodium per day for athletes. And they acknowledge it could be a multiple of that. And that's a huge amount. That's usually much more than what folks are typically using.
Yeah, and the folks who listen to the show know that we are not an evidence-based program. We rely more on scoops. So what you just laid out is more of a scoop, and it's not evidentiary. So that's you're totally safe. We're fine to roll with scoops.
I have to say, since I've been using it, one, it's a saving grace in Texas heat.
Yes,
it tastes incredible. Especially, I love the new watermelon, but because of that salty twist to it, I'm drinking more. And I bet 9 out of 10 people on a long ride are not drinking enough. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing I've noticed about it, the thought of some of the sugary drinks we used to drink all the time, you'd get done with a ride and you could just feel it on your teeth. Nasty. It's just really clean. And it's easy to roll up with your friends and hand out the packets and fill up at a convenience store and drop it in. It's well done.
Thank you. And, we opted to not add glucose or other sugars because we're never really sure who we're dealing with. Like, we really knew that the electrolyte piece addressed the needs of 99% of people. But if you have a large male versus a small female, that glucose side can be massively variable. When I do my jiu-jitsu classes, if it's a bunch of old beat up has-beens like myself, I don't even add any additional glucose. If it's a bunch of, no-necked 22-year-old former wrestlers, then I do like 20 grams of glucose per hour to do that. So instead of doing some kind of middle ground that maybe addresses some people and doesn't really address others, we just went with the no sugar option. But then we educate people about, okay, if large male, small female, use this much of a dextrose added to the element so you can customize it per your needs.
And speaking of customized, George has been he's been giving pro tips to our members he's been adding it to adding it to his cocktails. We had one day he was a little nicked up and he thought, I'm going to throw this in with a vodka soda, and it was next.
That's great. That's my new go-to drink.
You guys do say, I got to say, I love getting the care packages because it's not just product, right? There's always around Cinco de Mayo, like a Yeti showed up with a margarita mix and all this Mexican themed stuff, and I was like, no, these guys. That's their thinking. Like, they know what's up, and the branding's insane. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. We formulated the first several flavors. If we failed as an electrolyte company, we were going to pivot and become a drink mixer company. And so that was when we formulated them, it was as a drink base first and an electrolyte drink second. So yeah.
Why stop? Why stop there? You got it. I'm your pitch man for that one.
Before we let you go, how's the business doing? Seems like it's cranking. Seeing it everywhere.
It's going really well. And the cool thing, we have buy-in from all professional sports realms. We're in naval special warfare within different SEAL teams, all branches of the military, which is really cool. But what we're seeing is that just some folks in medical situation, like people with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, have just super embraced this. It's a situation where people have inadequate blood volume when they go from seated to standing. It appears to have kind of an autoimmune underpinning to it. But that POTS community has just gone crazy around LMNT and really bought into the messaging that we have. A number of other kind of interesting, just basic medical conditions. And one of them being when people do any type of a dietary change, going from a highly refined diet to a less refined diet, they typically experience, some lethargy, fatigue. If somebody does a really low carb diet, then they experience this thing called the keto flu. But generally when people do dietary change, they don't feel that good right in the beginning, which can be really challenging. It's like you're already changing all this stuff that is difficult to do. You're changing the foods that you like to eat, and now you feel like garbage. And what we're finding is that when people do a shift towards a better quality diet, if they have proper hydration support and good electrolytes, then it makes that whole process easier. So that's always, I love working with, high level athletes, but my heart has always been more in that, like somebody who has run the gamut of conventional medicine. They've got autoimmune or gut issues, and they're still looking for something like that's really my wheelhouse. And we've had huge buy-in from those folks. So that's been really, really cool.
I know you guys work closely with Tim Ferriss, who talks a lot about keto, and he talks a lot about LMNT. And so I think that's what you're alluding to, but aligning with a guy who I frankly think is a genius, and not easily fooled is amazing. So, good on you for that. But, hey, thanks for the support. Our audience loves it. We hear from our listeners all the time. And we're obviously on the show big believers, and it's cool to see our crew follow behind. So, best of luck, and thanks for coming on. Thanks for the support, and hey, stay salty, my friend.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.